Imagine a massive concrete wall extending across the horizon, sticking out like a sore thumb, near the mountain ranges between the US and Mexico. A medieval style wall with no other purpose but to keep people out, even though people will still find a way to get through. After spending all the money to build it, people and drugs are still coming in through the border, rendering the wall useless. This will be the reality if Trump's wall is built, as it will not be effective and instead cause more problems for the people living near the border. I will discuss the history and current issues surrounding the border between the US and Mexico and reveal more effective solutions to curb the number of people and drugs entering illegally. I'll first talk about the history and current problems of the border. The border came to be was revealed in the article published on Cato Institute by David J. Burr, and he reveals after the 1986 amnesty when President Ronald Reagan traded increased border security for the legalization of 3 million unauthorized immigrants. The Southern Border Patrol constructed a 10-foot welded steel fence along the 14-mile section of the border close to the Pacific. In 1996, a new law provided funds for a second layer. Despite repeated requests from Border Patrol for more, by the year 2000, just 60 miles of the southern border had fencing, almost all of which was in urban areas. Only San Diego had a second layer. Relying only on a physical barrier is not effective, as other problems will still continue. In an article by PBS authors Gretchen Frazee and Joshua Barajas, they reveal the terrain of the U.S. Mexico border, which spans nearly 2,000 miles, is diverse. A fence might be the best deterrent along some parts of the border, while other areas will be more secure using sensors and increased Border Patrol agents. But barriers alone won't stop migrants from attempting to cross the border altogether. Now that I have provided a brief history and current issues with the border wall, people will still believe that constructing a larger, almost impenetrable wall will solve the problem of smugglers and migrants entering the country. My next point will talk about how these issues are not going away soon. Having a stronger wall won't stop migrants and smugglers, as they would find new ways to get through the wall. Smugglers are smart and will adapt to the new changes to get their drugs and people to the U.S. According to the article by Vanda Felabab Brown of Brookings, she reveals how drug smugglers have been using tunnels to get drugs into the United States ever since Mexico's most famous drug trafficker, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman of the Sinaloa cartel, pioneered the method in 1889. In April 2016, U.S. law enforcement officials discovered that a drug tunnel that ran more than half a mile from Tijuana to San Diego was equipped with ventilation, vents, rails, and electricity. She further reveals that the traffickers, according to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, most of the smuggled marijuana, as well as cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, all come through the 52 legal ports of entry on the border. There have been many instances where smugglers use different methods to pass their drugs, such as elaborate schemes to have tunnels dug under the border wall to remain undetected. They also carefully plan out when they're going to use ports of entry, as they stuff drugs in secret compartments on trailers that are passing legal goods such as agriculture or in modified vehicles. The smugglers have been doing these for many years, and if a stronger physical barrier is built, it will not matter to them, as they will simply adapt new ways to trick the Border Patrol so they can pass their products. The border wall will not stop migrants from entering, as many are allowed to enter through work visas or arrive at the U.S. seeking asylum. In an article published in the CBS News by Kate Smith, she states that about 42% of the 10.7 million undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. in 2014 were doing so on expired visas, while there has been an increase in central migrants arriving at the southern border recently. A vast majority have claimed asylum, which is a legal mode of immigration. The wall did not stop the immigrants from entering the U.S., as they had permission to enter due to having work visas. They became undocumented once they decided to overstay their terms. It also does not stop migrants that are fleeing violence in their home countries, as they are willing to risk their lives for asylum in the U.S. If their options run low, then they would resort to paying smugglers to pass them through the other side. The issue about immigrants and smugglers entering the U.S. needs to be fixed. However, this issue is not going away overnight if the wall is built, and will continue if the way security is handled remains the same. This brings me to my last point, that the security policy should invest in other strategies that will be more effective at solving the issue. Instead of just investing in a stronger physical barrier, the U.S. should invest in other methods to solve the issues. First, the U.S. should invest in better technology and capacity at ports of entry. He argues, according to an article by the Congress member Henry Kuhl published on CNN, he argues we should increase the use of modern technology, including cameras, fixed towers, and aerial and underground sensors. Violent drug cartels are using more modern technology to breach our border than we are using to secure it. By investing in technology instead of an expensive physical barrier, the Border Patrol will be able to have more sophisticated sensors and equipment that would detect the trafficking of people and drugs. Having more advanced technology will reduce the influx of drugs, as more would be able to be caught and collected, compared to how now smugglers use different tactics to fool the officers. The officers need new technology to overcome the gap between theirs and the cartels in order to be able to protect the border more effectively. Secondly, providing more economic opportunities near the border will help reduce the number of undocumented immigrants entering the country. In an article by Samantha Horton of WFRIY Indianapolis, she reveals a plan researchers have been working on. The plan would push for investments in solar, wind, natural gas, and water desalination, which its authors say will improve agriculture and business in a region that lacks economic stability. Investing in clean energy plants that would be stationed near both sides of the border would provide the area with more economic opportunities. So the people on the side of Mexico will have an incentive to stay there instead. Many immigrants escape their home country due to violence, but having many more opportunities will reduce illegal immigration, since they will not have to resort to crossing the border illegally and search for work in the U.S. The plan will also be better for the environment instead of a concrete wall, as it will be providing clean energy, while the wall will simply just disrupt the land. Today, I hope to have presented the history and current problems of the border between the U.S. and Mexico. I hope to have taught you about why spending large amounts of money will not be effective against solving these issues of illegal trafficking. As U.S. citizens, we should make our voices heard and prevent the construction of the wall, as it would be a waste of valuable tax dollars. Instead, we should be investing in advanced technology and create more job opportunities that will be effective in solving the issues at the border.